Apple Bloom peered out the window. As the blizzard raged outside, she watched as the harsh winds blew around the normally fruitful spaces of Sweet Apple Acres. The wind howled and moaned against the various buildings that made up the farm as a whole. It sounded to her like the sinister singing of some long-forgotten ghost, lost and alone on a freezing equestrian night. The old wood that made up the Apple family's farmhouse groaned against the dual assaults of the cold and the wind. The creaking and the moaning would have put another feeling on edge, but Apple Bloom knew better. These timbers had held for long before the day of her birth, and somehow she knew they had no intention of giving up on the ghost anytime soon. Others might not have had the same faith that she had.
Apple Bloom, are you sure that the roof isn't going to come crashing down on us in the middle of the night?
Apple Bloom sighed, resting her head on the window's glass.
Just like I told you the last 7 times, Button. It will be fine.
Behind her, Button Mash pawed at the floor nervously.
You promise?
Button, you are really making me regret asking Apple Bloom to invite you over tonight. Skooloo rolled her eyes as she sipped from her mug of warm cider.
Skooloo!
Sweetie Belle's voice cracked slightly as she admonished her friend from across the couch.
What a thing to say!
Diamond Tiara sipped her own cider as she looked up from the magazine she'd been reading.
That does beg the question. Why is Button Mesh here? I thought this was a girls-only sleepover.
Apple Bloom finally pulled herself away from the window and nimbly jumped onto her nearby chair.
I never specified one way or the other. How was I supposed to know that only Button's mama would give him permission to come over?
She spared the brown coal a pitying look.
I'm sorry none of the other boys could come. You must be bored to tears.
Button Mash chuckled.
It's fine. To tell you the truth, Mom only let me come because she says I need to socialize more. Well, you do spend all your free time at the arcade.
Silver Spoon re-entered the room and reclaimed her place on the floor beside Diamond Tiara.
But let's be honest with ourselves here. We're not here because Bloom asked us over. We're here so our parents could get rid of us for the night.
Discarded on Hearthwarming Eve, Sweetbell muttered.
So, the stallions and mares can hide from the blizzard in Town Hall and drink enough hard cider to forget they even have kids.
Diamond Tiara pouted.
Man, grown-up ponies suck,
Skooloo grumbled.
I'll thank you to respect your elders when you're in this house, little missy.
The 6 young ponies' heads turned and watched as Applejack entered the room. She quickly removed her heavy coat and tossed it by the blazing fire to dry. She doffed her hat and began brushing the excess snow from the worn leather. Her eyes remained focused on Skooloo.
Now, you were saying about grown-up ponies?
Skooloo offered an embarrassed grin.
I didn't mean they all did. Applejack, that you?
Granny Smith poked her head out of the kitchen.
You make the delivery all right?
Yes, ma'am. The farmer flipped her hat over and pulled out a crumpled receipt.
15 barrels of hard cider delivered to Mayor personally. She said just bring this to her office the day after tomorrow and we'll get paid in full.
She looked back over to the young ponies.
Your folks say hi.
No, they didn't, Silver Spoon muttered under her breath. Diamond Tiara nudged her best friend in the ribs and looked past Applejack.
Where's Big Macintosh? Did you lose him in the snow?
Nope, came the deep reply. Macintosh Apple strode into the room. He tossed his own coat on top of Applejack's and gestured behind him.
But we did find some pony ales out there.
A stone-gray mare poked her head into the room and smiled through a curtain of mane the color of gravel.
Hi?
Marble! Apple Bloom ran across the room and hugged the earth pony tightly, much to the mare's discomfort and joy.
What are you doing here? The Paz family came in to see Pinky and had to shove themselves into just one room at the inn. I told Marble's Pa and Ma that we had plenty of room, but Pinky's parents had already settled in, and Limestone didn't feel like walking in the snow. And mod?
Applejack shrugged.
Mod is mod. Ain't that the truth?
Granny muttered before turning a gummy smile to Pinky's twin.
Well, there's always room for you in this house. Make yourself comfortable. Cookies are nearly done.
Applejack made sure Granny was safely in the kitchen before she turned to her brother and Mare next to him.
Why don't you give Marble a quick tour of the house, Mac?
She made a point by adjusting an ornament on the decorated hearth-warming tree.
Before Granny comes back on me.
Mac and Marble blushed and gave each other small, shy, secret smiles.
Would you like to see the house?
The great red stallion asked.
Mm-hmm.
Once the love-struck pair were gone, and Applejack had joined her grandmother in the kitchen, the 5 fillies in solitary cult resumed their pre-cookie activities.
So, is this a hearth-warming Eve tradition?
Silverspoon asked with an exaggerated yawn. Applebloom raised an eyebrow once she had reclaimed her chair.
It's what a tradition exactly? Sitting around until we die of boredom.
Despite her recently reformed status, Diamond Tiara could not resist giving a mean-spirited snort of laughter upon seeing the cutie mark Crusader's withering looks. She looked away in embarrassment.
Sorry. As much as I hate to admit it, Silverspoon does have a point. Are we actually going to do anything tonight?
Bunmash jumped onto the couch next to Sweetbelle and paid no mind to her barely suppressed squeak of surprise.
In my house, we play games on Hearthwarming Eve.
There's a shocker, Skulu muttered into her cider. Button cut his eyes at her.
And what do you do in your house, if I may ask?
Skulu grinned.
Hearthwarming Eve in my house is the best. We do this ancient Pegasite tradition called the mystery gift. Every pony passes around an empty box, opens it, and pretends it's exactly what we wanted for hearthwarming. The others have to guess what it is.
Applebloom smiled.
That's really neat, Scoots. But what do you win?
Diamond Tiara shoved the magazine over to Silverspoon and propped herself up on the pillow she was stretched out on.
The pony who guesses the most times, I mean. What do they win?
Skulu crossed her forelegs and gave a cocky smirk.
The winner gets to open the first gift on Hearthwarming morning. I've won the last 3 years in a row.
Diamond Tiara rolled her eyes at the orange filly's bravado and looked to Sweetbelle.
What about you? Do you have some old unicorn traditions?
Sweetbelle thought about it as she lit her horn and levitated her mug from her and onto a nearby coffee table.
Not sure about ancient traditions. My dad drinks a lot, if that counts. That's not a tradition,
Silverspoon whispered into Diamond Tiara's ear.
That's therapy fodder.
Diamond Tiara pulled away and glared at her best friend.
Can you stop being so rude? Well, excuse me for actually wanting to have fun on Hearthwarming Eve.
Applebloom looked sharply at the silver filly.
Is something wrong?
Silverspoon rolled her eyes and returned to the magazine.
Nothing's wrong. If we were at my house right now, we'd be opening the first gifts of Hearthwarming.
She looked around the room smugly.
I get so many presents each year that we have to start the night before. Wow, you're such a lucky pony.
Skulu let Sweetbelle's magic carry her own empty mug away.
I sure do wish that my parents had to buy my love every season. Please, Scootaloo.
Silverspoon narrowed her eyes at the Pegasus sarcastic tone of voice.
Don't get all memes because your family is so poor they had to come up with a tradition where you pretend that you're excited to get literally nothing for Hearthwarming.
Skulu's wings flared, and she jumped to the floor.
My family isn't poor, and at least we know the real reason for the season.
Silverspoon pushed the magazine away and stood on her own hooves.
Just what I'd expect to hear from the girl who's shown up these past few winters in the same ragged coat. I like that coat.
She took another step forward.
You don't know any better.
The Earth Pony mirrored her.
Stop it, Sylvie.
Diamond Tiara begged. She reached out a hoof, but pulled back when Silverspoon yanked her leg away.
Honestly, If we were in Apple Bloom's house right now, I'd kick your flank from here to Manhattan.
Sweetie Belle started to climb up the couch.
Scootaloo, maybe we should.
You want to fight?
Let's fight.
Silverspoon's ears flattened.
It'll probably make Sweetie Belle feel right at home if you start acting like her father after too many hard ciders.
Sweetie Belle froze, and then pulled herself back up onto the couch.
I'll do your homework for the next 2 months if you break her glasses, she said.
Button Mash looked around in confusion.
Is this what normally happens at girls' sleepovers?
Scootaloo tensed to spring.
Last chance. Take back what you said about my family. And Sweetie Belle's.
Silverspoon snorted and pawed at the floor, her tail whipping back and forth.
The only thing that should be taken back around here is that old, smelly, patched, stained, manure-encrusted coat of yours. That's it!
The two fillies rushed at each other.
Stop!
Apple Bloom leaned between them and held out her hooves to stop them.
Just stop all this right now. Now what in tarnation is going on in here?
The young ponies all looked up to find Applejack staring at them. A tray of cookies and milk balanced on her back.
Well?
Granny Smith's aged laughter drifted from behind the cow pony.
Don't you worry about them none, Applejack. They just want to meet Grogar is all.
Button Mash tilted his head.
Grogar? What's that?
Granny Smith snorted as she made her way to her old rocking chair by the fire.
Now don't tell me no ponies ever told you a lot about Grogar. He's as important a part of Hearthwarming as Santa Hooves himself.
The fillies and colts stared at her with uncomprehending eyes. Granny Smith hefted herself into her chair and smiled.
I guess it's up to me to spin the tale then. Applejack, you pass out them cookies and milk. The rest of you get comfy.
The ponies all returned to their original seats, Scootaloo and Silverspoon shooting looks at each other to make it clear that they were nowhere near done.
Now, what can you little ponies tell me about Santa Hooves? Santa Hooves travels around Equestria on Hearthwarming Eve, visiting all the fillies and colts in the land.
Sweetie Belle smiled as she bit into a cookie.
Very good. And if you've been a good little pony and honored the spirit of harmony all year, then you get a present, right?
Six heads all nodded.
And what if you're bad? You get coal.
Scootaloo muttered.
Is coal bad?
Marble asked as she and Mac re-entered the room and squeezed into a love seat. Dopey grins on their faces.
I like getting coal for Hearthwarming.
Granny Smith ignored her and continued.
Sometimes if you're a bad pony, you're lucky to get coal. You might just attract the attention of Grogar. Who is Grogar?
Apple Bloom asked.
He's Santa Hooves' opposite number. His shadow, you might say. It's said that he's a huge ram with fur the color of a full moon lit night. His eyes burn with blazing red fires of the deepest pits of Tartarus. His mouth is full of fangs so sharp they can bite right through stone.
Sweetie Belle gulped and unconsciously pulled closer to Button Mash.
It's said that he lives all year round in the ruined city of Tambalon, far beyond the distant north, and he only comes out on Hearthwarming Eve. He flies around Equestria listening for anger and sniffing for disharmony, and when he finds it, then he swoops down and snatches that pony in the chains that he always carries with him. He hangs bells from the chains to ring while he flies around and does his evil work. If you hear those bells of Tambalon, it's already too late.
The little ponies and Marble Pie all flinched.
What happens to the ponies that get snatched?
Button Mash stammered.
No pony knows.
Granny Smith looked at the flickering flames in the hearth. Her mouth set into a frown.
I've heard it's told that he drags them to Tartarus where they suffer for all time. I've also heard it once or twice that he just eats the little pony he takes away.
Scootaloo's eyes widened in horror.
The way my granny told it, though, was the worst of all. She told me that the taken were spirited away to Tambalon itself. They're stripped of everything that made them who they were until they ain't nothing but husks, neither living nor dead. There they serve Grogar until the end of time, deprived forever of anything they treated so lightly. The spirit of hearthwarming, the spirit of friendship, of harmony itself.
Granny looked back at the little ponies with a mischievous glint in her eyes.
Oh, and one more thing y'all need to know.
The colt and 5 fillies leaned forward in expectation.
I'd wager that he heard that little spat y'all were having earlier and came a little early.
As if in response, a pair of curved horns began to rise from behind the sofa. Apple Bloom saw them first from her perch on the chair. She pointed a hoof and screamed,
"He's here!"
The other young ponies screamed and panicked, scrabbling madly away from the couch. As if in response to their screams, a deep booming laughter came from behind the cushions, from beneath the horns. Familiar booming laughter. Beneath horns that were now shaking loosely. Apple Bloom, the first to scream, was now the first to figure it out. Her eyes narrowed with as much rage as her tiny body could handle.
"Big Mac!"
The stallion rose up fully, almost doubled over with laughter. Tied to his head by a flimsy string was a pair of horns, presumably carved from a log from the family's woodpile. Granny Smith's wizening cackling soon joined her grandson's as he crossed the room and gave her a hoof bump.
"Got him good, boy."
Applejack stared at the two, visibly unamused.
"I hope you two are all proud of yourselves. Now we got a bunch of little ponies that ain't gonna be sleeping at all tonight." Whatever, AJ.
Scootaloo climbed back onto the couch and did her best to hide her still trembling wings.
It wasn't that scary.
Silver Spoon also scoffed, as she settled back onto one of the floor cushions, making a point to be as far away from Scootaloo as possible.
Yeah, like there'd ever be something as silly as a ram that snatches colts and fillies away.
Budmash made his way to grab his cap from where it had fell and found his leg and hoof held hostage in the iron grip of a unicorn.
Sweetie Belle?
Huh? Sweetie Belle noticed what she was holding on to and released it as quickly as she could manage.
Sorry,
she muttered with a forced chuckle.
No idea why that happened.
Granny Smith's laughter faded, and she fixed her eyes on Silver Spoon.
Oh, this with Mac was all a joke. You can bet with that. But you'd better believe Grogar is real. As real as Santa Hoofs himself.
Silver Spoon did not flinch from Granny's gaze.
I know that, because Santa Hoofs isn't real either.
The silence that followed was broken only by the crackling of the fire.
What did you just say?
Apple Bloom gazed at the gray filly reproachfully. Silver Spoon rolled her eyes.
I should have figured that you, of all ponies, would not have figured it out by now. Figured what out?
Applejack looked between the two fillies in mounting horror. This was not how she wanted this information to come out.
Alright, I think we better tuck in. Figured what out?
Apple Bloom repeated, ignoring her big sister.
Yeah, I guess I haven't figured it out either.
Budmash's face shared the same look as Apple Bloom. Curiosity and confusion. Silver Spoon looked at her peers.
Really? Okay, raise your hoof if you think Santa Hoofs is real. Silver Spoon?
Demeter whispered dangerously. But the hooves of the three fillies and a colt were already in the air. Sweetie Belle gaped at Demeter, her hooves still flat on the floor.
You don't believe in Santa Hoofs?
Mac's attention was pulled away from the escalating tension by the realization that some pony was missing.
Hey, Where'd Marble go?
Applejack looked at the love seat where the pie sister had been sitting and snorted in irritation.
You must have scared her off with that trick, you big dunderhead. She could be anywhere in the house. Y'all go looking for that scaredy mare,
Granny said, her eyes still burning a hole through Silver Spoon.
I'll make sure these six don't start rumbling again.
Applejack opened her mouth to protest, but thought better of it. Instead, she looked to her brother.
You take the upstairs, I'll take here. And for pony's sake, get rid of those horns before you give that mare a heart attack.
Yup, Mac muttered sheepishly as he left the carved horns by the fireplace. Silver Spoon was smirking at Diamond Tiara.
Of course she doesn't believe.
She removed her glasses and rubbed them against her coat to clean them.
Did you figure it out yourself? Or did your parents tell you?
Diamond Tiara sighed heavily.
Mother told me last week after I found a stash of presents in the attic and asked them about it. She said she was glad I'd found them because I was getting too old to believe in old ponytails. Santa Hoofs is not an old ponytail, Scoobloo shouted. He's the only pony in this whole world that treats us all equally. Then why does he always bring you gifts that aren't as nice as what every pony else gets?
Her words began to fan the flames of anger in Scoobloo's heart.
Santa Hoofs does what he can. I bet your daddy told you that now, didn't he? That's enough, Missy.
Granny Smith's voice was suddenly razor sharp in its tone.
It ain't your place to be saying things like that. I may be up in my years, but I can still tan your hide.
A ding came from the kitchen.
Dag flabbing cookies!
The old Earth Pony muttered as she made her way to the kitchen, casting one last wilting look over at Silver Spoon. Appleboom's eyes were now on Diamond Tiara.
What did your mom tell you?
Diamond Tiara's eyes were on the floor.
Our parents made up Santa Hoofs. They hide extra presents every year and put them out after you go to sleep on Hearthwarming Eve.
Button Mash laughed uneasily.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would they go out of their way to lie about something like that? Because their parents lied to them about it and their parents did the same thing. It's a tradition to lie to your foals.
Silver Spoon smirked humorously as she put her glasses back on.
How messed up is that? What is wrong with you tonight, Silver Spoon?
Diamond Tiara looked up with worry at her best friend.
Wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Silver Spoon jumped off her cushion and started pacing in front of the fireplace.
What's wrong with all of you? Newsflash, hot off the presses. All the ponies in this town do nothing but lie to each other and keep secrets. Secrets and lies. Well, you know what? I've had it with secrets and lies.
The wind blew against the house again, creating a low creaking moan as though the house were warning Silver Spoon to stop.
It is time to grow up, and growing up means facing the truth. I bet your dad told you that, didn't he?
Silver Spoon's jaw snapped shut as she gazed at Scoobloo with unbridled fury.
What did you just say to me? Is that what he told you after he told you Santa Hoofs wasn't real?
Scoobloo met Silver Spoon's eyes without fear.
That's what this is all about, isn't it? Your folks ruined it for you, so you have to ruin it for every pony else.
Scoobloo nodded towards Diamond Tiara.
At least she had the decency to keep that information to herself. Decency?
Button Mash raised a hoof.
I wasn't aware we had decided Santa Hoofs wasn't real.
He looked around in confusion.
Is that still not up for debate? Decency is doing the adult thing and accepting the truth, not hiding behind foolish innocence.
Silver Spoon turned her glare to Sweetie Belle, sitting once again near Button Mash.
Here, I'll show you. Hey, Button Mash!
The colt looked up expectantly.
Sweetie Belle has a crush on you.
Sweetie Belle's mouth dropped open, and her blush could be seen clear through her coat.
You weren't supposed to tell any pony,
she cried, her voice cracking loudly.
Oh please, it's not like no pony noticed. He just did it because he has the social skills of a diamond dog. That's enough, Silver Spoon, Damatira shouted. You're years away from your first heat, and you're already practically raising your tail for him.
Skulu shot across the room like a bullet and tackled the earth pony to the floor. She stood over her and raised a hoof to strike.
No pony talks to her like that.
Silver Spoon's eyes rolled with madness.
Like you're any better? Go ahead and beat me up. Maybe that will impress her so much she'll stop focusing on the king of dorks over there and look at you for once like you've always wanted her to look at you.
Skulu faltered, her eyes wide.
What?
Silver Spoon took the opportunity and kicked straight upward. The orange filly went soaring and landed next to the hearthwarming tree with a crash. Button Mash and Sweetbell ran over to check on their fallen friend. Sweetbell deliberately keeping away from Button's coat and trying to process what Silver Spoon had just revealed. Apple Bloom jumped from her chair and squared herself.
I don't give a darn what you're going through right now. No pony treats some pony like that under the apple's roof.
Silver Spoon got back to her hooves and giggled madly.
Like we wanted to be under the apple's roof tonight in the first place.
Damatira saw where her friend was going, but it was already too late.
Sylvie, don't. Why don't you tell Hayseed over there what you told me when you found out we'd be coming over here for Hearthwarming Eve?
Apple Bloom froze and looked over at the filly, who she had once considered her greatest enemy.
What's she talking about, Dad?
Damatira opened her mouth to speak, but closed it again, unsure of what she wanted to say.
I'll tell you, and I'll use small words so your bumpkin brain can process it.
Silver Spoon adjusted her glasses, now ignoring how off-kilter they were.
She told me how upset she was that we had to spend the most magical night of the year crammed into this dusty, dirty old shack with ponies we get more than enough of at school.
Each word pierced Apple Bloom deeper.
Did you really say that?
Damatira looked away. It was all the answer Apple Bloom needed.
Don't act so surprised, Hayseed.
Silver Spoon was beyond reason now, her body visibly vibrating with adrenaline and insanity.
Did you really think that whole cutie mark incident meant we were magically friends forever now? Because that's not how real life works. Sure, we might pal around now, and we won't mock you for being blank flanks, but in a few years, we'll start mocking how hideous your cutie marks are.
Skulu looked up from between her doting friends to say something about the insult, but found her gaze drawn to the window. The blizzard outside seemed to be growing stronger.
School, foalhood, friendships, they all go away. After school's over, we're all going to settle into the roles we were always meant to be in. Skulu will always be poor. Sweetie Belle will probably give Button a boatload of babies. You'll live on this farm until the day you die, and Damatira and I will rise above you all to be the absolute upper crust of pony society. We're the only friends we'll ever need.
The slap rang through the room. All eyes found Silver Spoon holding her cheek in shock. Silver Spoon stared at Damatira, her hoof still raised. Damatira glared, tears running down her face.
You're not acting like my friend.
Silver Spoon's shock shattered as the rage returned. She squared herself in front of the roaring fire and stared at her former best friend.
Fine, I don't need you. I don't need any of you. I don't need my parents, or their lies, or their stories about mythical gift givers.
A peculiar sound drew Sweetie Belle, Button Mash, and Skulu's eyes back to the window. The night outside was obscured completely by white. The panes of glass were starting to frost over.
I don't need any of this, and when I have a foal, I won't waste her time with silly stories like Santa Hooves and Grogar. I won't waste her time with nonsense like friendship, and come to think of it, I won't waste her time with hearthwarming at all.
Sweetie Belle's ears twitched.
Does anybody else hear that? You mean the wind? No, I hear it too.
Button put his ear to the window and tried to ignore the almost burning cold.
It almost sounds like bells.
The unicorn whispered in confusion.
That's enough, Silver Spoon. Can't you just stop?
Appleboom cried.
No, I hate all of you. I hate my parents, I hate Ponyville, and I hate harsh warming.
The entire house shook as an enormous thud came from the roof. A freezing wind blew down the chimney and blew out the fire completely. Silence descended upon the room.
Did the roof cave in?
Button asked. A sudden shriek of metal on stone came from the chimney. The assembled ponies watched as a long length of chain shot out of the hearth and wrapped itself around a frozen and surprised Silver Spoon. It looped around her several times before the hook on the tip locked into one of the wings, securely tying the earth pony. Dangling from the chain was a multitude of gently tinkling bells. Silver Spoon stared at the others, her mind unable to process what was happening.
What?
The chain was yanked back suddenly, violently, and Silver Spoon vanished up the chimney, with no other sound from the cruel laughter of the bells hanging from the chain. Silver Spoon's glasses hit the floor. The left lens cracked. The screaming began.